moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion made for a second.
I took Jim's.
Jim, thanks.
Next is public comment, and first time on public comment, we did receive a letter regarding the parking flow problem that we discussed. I believe it was at the Public Assets Committee meeting here last time. We'll talk to Chairman Harms here in just a minute about that, but I think I'd like to read that letter into the record. It's from Shirley Ludens at 1015 First Street Northwest. It says this letter is in regard to the article "Parking Flow Problem Near High School Attributed to Door Security Sign and Fix" that appeared in the June 27th issue of the Hampton Chronicle. She says her husband Henry, now deceased, and her have lived at the current address for almost 43 years, and there's never been a problem with congested traffic at the intersection where First Street Northwest meets 12th Avenue Northwest at any time during all those years, just because vehicles belonging to homeowners on First Street Northwest did not park that far north on either side of the street. This became a problem this past school year when HD students who were arriving late to school started parking on both the east and west sides of the street, all the way from approximately 10th Place Northwest to the stop sign on 12th Avenue Northwest. Parking so close to the corners created difficulty for truckers to maneuver their rigs as they were coming from either the east or west on 12th Avenue and who attempted to turn south on First Street Northwest. The reason for the parking by HD students on First Street Northwest, as stated in the article by Hampton Police Chief Robert Schaefer, was because the doors of the school were locked beginning last fall for security reasons, and the students didn't want to walk all the way around the school from the school's parking lot to enter the building. Additionally, HD students using these parking spaces all day during the school year created a safety hazard for not only me and my other neighbors, but also for the students themselves. Because First Street Northwest is such a heavily used street, when attempting to back out of my driveway, I could not see if any vehicles were coming from either the north or the south until the back end of my car was way out into the street, my vision being obscured by the large number of HD students who utilize the parking spaces for a lengthy distance all day long. I was an accident waiting to happen. One particular incident happened one day as I was backing out of my driveway. I felt I had a clear opportunity from both directions to get onto the street when a female student that I couldn't see came running down the street to get to her car and ran behind my car. Luckily for both of us, I saw her in my rearview mirror just in time to be able to stop before hitting her. It scared me to death, as I could have very easily backed over this student and possibly killed her. I visited with Public Works Director Doug Tarr. City Manager Ron Dumpf was on vacation about my concerns, and wondered if the Public Assets Committee had visited with school administrators regarding this situation, and was told no, that this was a city problem and not a school problem to solve. I believe it is also a school-related problem, since the congested traffic and parking problem was created by HD students. I'm fully aware that HD students do not have to park in the school parking lot and can park wherever they want to. However, placing no parking signs at the corner of First Street Northwest and 12th Avenue Northwest only alleviates the problem for truckers turning on First Street Northwest and vice versa. No parking signage does not address the safety issues of paragraph 3. I also visited with my neighbor Aaron Miller, who lives on the west side of the street from me, and who is also a school board member, if the concern had ever been brought to the school board for discussion. He said no, but he didn't know if administration had been contacted. Aaron did say that he knew there had been discussion about installing a buzzer system at the north entrance doors so that HD students could once again use the school's parking lot during the day and be able to enter the building from the north using the buzzer system. That sounds like a very logical and safer remedy to these issues. Councilmember Dick Lukensmeyer is aware of my concerns and agreed that a letter from me was appropriate. The article stated that Mr. Tarr was directed to provide a draft of the ordinance amendment at a future council meeting, and that the committee directed staff to notify the affected property owners of the time and place where full council would hear a recommendation to add no parking signage. Mr. Tarr also suggested I write a letter expressing my concerns. Since I'm dealing with a health issue at the present time, I may be unavailable to attend a council meeting, thus I'm sending my letter to various individuals as recommended for their information. Thank you very much for taking my concerns into consideration. Sincerely, Shirley Ludens, 1015 First Street Northwest, Hampton, Iowa. And copies were sent to all members of Hampton City Council, city staff, and Superintendent Todd Leto, High School Principal Steve Madsen, and Police Chief Schaefer. So, Councilman Harms, if you'd like to.
First, I want to thank Shirley Ludens for answering us. A lot of times we don't hear any comments, and I think that's a great thing. The reason why this all came about is because the students were blocking the street during the school hours. Myself, driving the bus going through there, has seen the congestion firsthand. I'm sure everybody else here has. Now, during the meeting, we discussed the change in the no parking signs, and sought out Bob Schaefer's comments on it as well, and we decided that the west side would be the optimum side because most of the trucks were coming from that direction and could make the swing then onto First Street north, onto First Street. Anything else, Bob? Why we went to that route?
I'm not sure, other than we wanted to be able to let the people that live there basically have a place to park.
See, and we have a time frame rather than have it shut down all the time. It's like 8:30 in the morning when full school first starts, and then 4 o'clock in the afternoon after it's over. Now, I truly believe that if we, with discussions with the school, could get them to somehow allow traffic back in from the parking lot, this problem might probably take care of itself. So that's where I think we need to be now, is get in some discussions with the school and see what they can do to help us out.
And Ron has contacted Todd Leto and Steve Madsen about setting up a meeting to discuss the issues. Look for that in the future, so, thank you. Any other public comment, or Dick, did you have a
Question,
Yep.
Steve, as far as you said the west side of the street, all the way, I don't think there's an 11th Avenue there, it goes to maybe, is it 10th place, or is it
Yeah.
a full 2 blocks that you're thinking about?
Well, the discussion was for that, down to the full 2 blocks on that
On the west side.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on that issue? Okay, thanks. Any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Bill Hodge. I live at 614 7th Street Southwest, Hampton, Iowa. I'm in Ward 1. Found myself just about saying aye there with you guys, but Ryan, I'm here to talk a little bit. I'm not here to embarrass you, criticize you, chastise you in public for anything. I just think some of the things that have happened, I think you should step back, take a good look, see where you're at in life, and see if this, should I really be on the city council? We're supposed to be role models. I question if sometimes maybe in the past I was. Can't judge Mr. Palmer, but he can. You know, it's a tough decision to make. I went through that when I had the medical problems. I knew mentally I wasn't right. I knew December 5th and 6th when I resigned I wasn't right. Sometimes you have to take steps. You have to back up. You're the #1 person you should look out for. It's got to be, I would think, a problem for yourself dealing with all this, with the council having to deal with all this, with the citizens, including Ward 1, having to deal with this, with the town having to deal with this. I'm not here to ask you to resign, nor am I here to tell you to resign. You know best what you should do. After I resigned, I'll be honest with you, I went through hell. I committed myself. I'm not saying you should do that. Please don't misunderstand me. And that's a tough decision to make. When you go up there and you lock them doors, you're there. There ain't no getting out. And I'll guarantee you, if you aren't crazy when you go in, you'll be crazy when you come out if you stick around there long enough. But go get some professional help if that's what you need. You know. If you don't, someday other people will make that choice for you. Sit back, don't take my word for it. Where you are in life, decide what is best for you, the town, the citizens, and everything. It is somewhat of a distraction. I'm not here to get your job, believe me. If I wanted, I could have had it. But look where you're at in life.
Still can.
Well, I appreciate that, but look where you're at in life personally. Take care of yourself. I realize you're innocent, they gotta prove you guilty, but take care of yourself first. And I'll help you in any way I can, anyway.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Diane Weldin, 211 18th Avenue Northeast. I just want to make a point again about changing the meeting times and the day. And I know it's falling kind of on mute ears, but my concern is, you know, the news isn't going to get out there any faster than what it did before, except by maybe 2 days. And my concern with doing away with committees and going to the workshop mode, I don't know how long these meetings are going to last. Last night we had 2, and we had to hurry-scurry to get through that second one because there was already a scheduled meeting here at 7. I went out those doors and those people were really very unhappy that they weren't able to be in here a little earlier than what they were. So I don't know how long you project those workshops are gonna last. I know it depends on what the agendas are, but I do know that with finance and personnel, some of those can take a long period of time, especially when we're working with the budget. Also wondered about the cemetery fence dedication. My understanding it was to be done on Memorial Day and then July 4th, and I don't think there's been any date set. The project is complete, right? Whoever knows, project's complete?
I don't know if the seeding is done yet or not. I know Jeff's been concerned about, you know, he's seeded the grass.
I don't
He's
know,
concerned
Dick.
with the hot weather.
I would hope that he
this-
wouldn't at this point, because it's not gonna grow.
I think so. That's,
Well, I
that's
don't-
why you
I
see
don't-
some of the, weeds. Well,
I don't care so much about the
Weeds are
grass.
down there,
It's the
yeah.
fence people wanted
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
and
the
that's
fences,
in and done.
The fence is in and done, and all the landscape, the grading is all done.
Good.
I think the seeding is about the only thing to be done, and he's probably using good wisdom with that because of that.
So expenses have been covered with the donations that were made. I haven't heard anything.
Well, we don't think we have a final picture of the expenses in hand yet,
Mhm.
knowing where they're at, so.
Okay, all right, thanks. And again, I would like to address Ryan Stock too. You know, as the gentleman said before, everybody makes mistakes. I have made mistakes, but what you do with those to correct those. And you had told us you were making some changes in your personal life, but 2 to 3 weeks later, we have the same thing that happened. So
As
apparently.
much as I would love to comment on that, it's being handled by an attorney.
I know it is, and so it's just like Bill said, you're innocent until proven guilty. You know, you don't have children, but I did, and I tried to raise them with the morals and to become strong, mature adults, and instill in them that as you're a young adult, the choices that you make are going to be your responsibility. And with those choices come consequences, and you're responsible for those consequences also. I would like to pose a question to the council people and pose it to them individually, elected people and mayor as well. What would you do in that position of what Ryan is faced with? Would you resign? I'm gonna go kind of hopscotch around. Steve?
Yes.
Diane?
No.
And Jim?
No comment.
And Dick?
I'd gather all the facts first and then make a comment.
And Craig?
Well, based on the first go around, I think that I would have, yes, that issue's settled. I would have resigned.
And we talk about giving everybody chances, and I think that has happened, and that's my comments to make when apparently corrections haven't been made. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we will move forward. We got committee reports, Finance and Personnel Committee Chair Dick Lukensmeyer.
Finance and Personnel had a meeting last night, wasn't too terribly long, 35 minutes, and I think the following meeting was about 40, so, or about 45, so we did pretty well. We started at 5:30, members present were Dick Lukensmeyer, Diane Crowley, Craig Eckhart, also present were Mayor Sean Dietz, City Manager Ron Dunn, Public Works Director Doug Tarr, Police Chief Bob Schaefer. Members of the public in attendance were Brian Borkling, Jim Card, Mayor Cash Davis, Diane Weldin, Brad Bradley Waddle and Jim Davies. Doug updated the committee on the water filter repair. The contractor is planning to be on site within 1 to 2 weeks. Ron explained that the wastewater plant project is moving along through the permitting process, and the final cost estimates are being compiled to use for council proceedings on a potential bond issue. Land acquisition has moved to the court for proceedings through condemnation. Unsure of the time frame, but we're hopeful it shouldn't be too long. Doug gave an update on Progress Park project. It's moving along and appears as if weather cooperates, the contractors should be able to finish as scheduled. Skate park will be installed July 16th. Brian Borking, IT consultant for the city, presented his thoughts on options to consider for video feed of council meetings. He feels the current internet service available will not be sufficient to serve a live web streaming of the meetings. One option would be to upgrade the service, but this may increase the monthly internet rate to $700. The committee didn't feel this was an appropriate option. Another option is to purchase a 1080 PDI video camera, download to a new workstation, and then upload to the city website with a link to YouTube or some other similar website for viewing. Audio and video quality were discussed. And Mayor Dietz volunteered to do a test run with his personal camera to determine quality. Eckhart asked if the Hampton Chronicle was interested in funding the equipment needs. Mira from the Chronicle indicated that the Chronicle would be interested in posting the video to their website, and she could do an experimental recording of a council meeting as well. She will coordinate with Brian Borking when doing so. Mayor Dietz will also record a meeting, and the results will be shared with the committee at the next meeting. Ron and Doug indicated that the 2012 street overlay bid letting will be advertised and let in late July, and a contract award considered by council at its first meeting in August. Ron then explained the recent Moody's bond rating. Moody's has an affirmed A3 rating for Hampton based on the financial condition of the city, local economic conditions, and tax base, amongst other considerations. The original bond rating obtained by Moody's was helpful in attracting reduced rate interest bonds for our projects. The meeting concluded at 6:05. Thank you.
And we do have Mira here recording that sample here tonight, so thank you. And I think Pat had a camera as well. Appreciate that. Look forward to seeing the quality on those. Next is City Services Chair Jim Davies.
Yeah, the City Services Committee meeting was held July 9th following the Finance and Personnel present were Council members Diane Crowley, Dick Lukensmeyer, and myself, as was Mayor Sean Dietz, City Manager Ron Dunt, Public Works Director Doug Tarr, Chief of Police Bob Schaefer, Aquatic Center Manager Brad Waddle, also present members of the press and the public. Meeting was called to order at 6:12 p.m. And on 3 items under unfinished business, there was a brief update on the filter repair project at the water treatment plant or water treatment facility that was taking place this week, ready to go with the water tower painting project in late August or early September. There was an update on the Progress Park improvement project, appears to be on schedule at this time. And then there's a question by Diane for a vicious animal update, and we're essentially waiting for wording from city attorney. New business items. The first one was update on the Aquatic Center operations and programming. Brad reported that it's been a great summer so far. There's only been 2 days that the Aquatic Center's been closed. Gate receipts of $43,220 and $11,892 for concessions through July 8th. Program update, there's a splash dance held Friday, June 30th with 60 people attending. A swim meet with Clarion was held on Saturday morning, July 1st. And there was a dive-in movie, Puss in Boots, was shown on Saturday, July 1st with 125 people attending. And they're looking at a back-to-school movie, and that would be Hunger Games for August 18th. And then during the week of the Franklin County Fair, which is Wednesday through Sunday, the hours of the Aquatic Center will be noon to 6, and it'll just be open swim only. Then we talked about cell phone reimbursement, and the committee's recommended that Ron look at reimbursement for Brad and adding another phone onto the city, another cell phone onto the city plan to use at the pool in the future. And since there's no assistant manager, or there is no assistant manager, and there's 3 head lifeguards at this time, and at times Brad feels overwhelmed with getting everything accomplished. Brad requests that either increase his pay next year because of the extra responsibility or hire an assistant manager. And the committee recommended that we give Haley Hansen a raise for an assistant manager responsibilities that she is taking on this summer. And the committee also requested that at the end of the year, that an end-of-the-year report be given from Brad with his recommendations for operations as well as staffing and pay. Another item under new business was security systems for the aquatic center. There's been some vandalism, such as rocks being thrown in the pool, that have taken place, and Chief Schaefer discussed possible use of cameras and also keeping a light on all night in the parking lot was mentioned. And the committee requested that recommendations and pricing for a security system be sought from security system providers. And the third item under new business was tennis court reservations and usage as it pertains to school events and private use. I shared how high school tennis team practices and meets are handled in Iowa Falls. The Iowa Falls Alden school teams have had priority in usage of their courts with no issues. Coaches, players, and the community all cooperate and work together. No money is being charged the Iowa Falls Alden School District by the City of Iowa Falls that I'm aware of. And the past rules of the Hampton courts were mentioned with no recommendations made at this time for use of the Hampton courts. And the meeting was adjourned at 6:58 p.m.
Good. Next on the agenda is Steve Harms, Chair of the Public Assets Committee.
Thanks, Sean. Our next meeting will be Monday, July 16th, 5:30 at City Council Chamber.
Thank you. New business, we're going to talk a little bit, but we're going to have discussion on public sidewalks. We've had a couple of basic issues come up recently, one quite literally. A sidewalk pop-up just outside of BSA. And Doug, do you want to approach the council here and fill them in on the report that we received and what you've done since?
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, a report came into City Hall last week regarding some of the new sidewalk that was constructed during the Highway 65 project in front of BSA Auto, where Eric Barkma is the owner of that business. And we kind of investigated the site, went and looked at it, took some pictures and photos, and sent those off to the project engineer, B&K Engineering, Andy Smith, who's been at a few meetings in the past. Andy's looked at those, and just right before our meeting tonight, I received an email from him. He said, I looked at your photos, and it looks like the heaving was caused by the heat, humidity last week, rather than any workmanship issues or other problems. It looks as though it could settle back down if it is going to, and I would think it would happen yet this week with the relatively cool temperatures. When you do look at it, when I look at it from my standpoint, from installing sidewalks in the past, there was expansion joints put in the proper locations where they should be. We did have some extreme weather. Why it occurred, I can't explain that. I don't think that Andy would be able to explain that. It's been known to happen. Historically, in a phone conversation with Andy, he said it's known to happen underneath roadways more so than it would be sidewalks. They'd never noticed it to take place during sidewalks, but from the photos that we sent him, that's what he is indicating. That still doesn't take away from the fact that there's an issue. The nice part about is 2 of the 3 areas where the heaving occurred, it actually broke where it was supposed to. It broke at a seam, at a saw cut. Why the 3rd one broke and it actually cracked the sidewalk, can't explain. The sidewalks, when they installed them, were to a certain thickness with a certain sub-base, and like he said, it doesn't appear to him to be a workmanship issue. So,
what's the worst case scenario to remedy that particular situation, in your opinion?
Worst case scenario is that the city staff go up there and saw the cakes out and try to re-pour it. I can't promise you that that wouldn't happen again in the future if we got that type of temperature. Could be soil related, many feet down. Who knows? I mean, I can't speak on the weather, obviously. And I know we say that a lot, but it's really true. We live in the Midwest. We have extreme cold temperatures in the winter, and then we have extreme hot temperatures. And anytime you have the two variations of both, we had very little snow cover this year. The ground moves a lot in our climate, unfortunately. But worst case scenario is if council directed, we could have staff go up there and pour it back. You're probably looking at about $1,000 worth of labor and concrete and materials maybe. To say that it won't happen again, no one can promise that, but obviously we'd probably do it the same way that it was done before, putting the expansion in the same locations and saw cuts in the same locations. It's engineered, and you know that it was consistent of the applications of pouring sidewalks. So but that would be at council's direction if we chose so.
Doug, where would that broken area be in relation to any adjoining storm sewer intakes on the street side?
Without looking at a map, Craig, I'm not sure.
I was just curious, you talk about weather, and we see that on the news quite frequently, where highways are prone to buckling and stuff like that.
Right.
But where I work, we deal with temperature extremes. And if you've got a conduit, if you will, with the storm sewer underneath that, there's a temperature variation, sort of fluctuation possibility. And sometimes that can be transmitted quite a ways, and maybe to the weakest link, and it's breaking where it should, but
Right.
just not how it should. It shouldn't be breaking fractionally linear with the sidewalk.
Correct. 2 out of the 3 were appropriate breaks. They were right on the saw.
They're just a heave, not a break.
Yeah, right, they're heaves.
One's a
and-
break now.
Yeah, I've seen that, but I mean,
Right.
where he's talking about an expansion joint, those are heaves, so there's a difference. That should go back down, I would
Right, but
think.
none of these were the expansion joints.
I thought he just said it was.
No,
They're at they're at
on
saw cuts, but there's an expansion not that far from when that was put in the appropriate place. I believe the 2 that are broken at the saw cut, here's a best case scenario. Maybe we should wait and see what the temperatures do. Quite honestly, it's not a violation of our Hampton code.
It's
the way
gonna
they
be out
say
by
right
half
now.
an inch. Is it out a half an inch?
The slope, and it's actually 2 inches. One sec, can I grab a piece of paper with our code?
One of those saw cuts, Craig, it's broken all the way through, and there are 2 different levels. Instead of just being heaved, it's actually shifted.
In the event the city would,
Separated.
I'm sorry, Dick.
Yep.
In the event that the city would demand somebody, another person out in our community, this is the criteria that we would say if we were gonna force somebody to repair their sidewalk, which we don't do anyway, but if we were, the criteria basically states a vertical or horizontal separation of 3/4 of an inch or more. We don't have that. Chipping or spalling of over 50% of a single square or panel of the sidewalk, we don't have that. The sidewalk is cracked into more than 3 pieces per 4x4 foot square, and sections are distorted or distressed with a vertical height difference of 1/2 inch or more, or a horizontal separation of 2 inches or more. We have one that's probably really close to a 1/2 inch. I have some pictures I'd be more than happy to show anybody after the meeting. I don't think it's quite a half, but there is a little bit of separation on 2 panels where one is raised a smidge. Another criteria is number 4, a sidewalk portion which is missing to the full depth, forming holes in the sidewalk. We don't have that issue. The sidewalk has raised or depressed more than 2 inches in an 8-foot area from the normal line of grade of the sidewalk. And with the heaving in a couple areas, we do have a little bit of that. You might be pretty close to that in those areas. Does it look like an immediate emergency or hazard? I don't think so, but we do have some cones up there. Just to let people know that there is a little variation. We keep those there until we decide what we're gonna do with that. The uniqueness unfortunately to this one is it's a brand new sidewalk in our eyes, so downside to that is I can probably go to over 100 locations within the city and show you a lot worse. But it wasn't just poured a couple years ago, so. But, that's basically the facts. We'll do whatever you guys decide you want us to do, and that's the way we'll attack it. So, you just give me some direction, we'll fix it.
Another thing I noticed was, none of the 3 heating points are, in the surface of the sidewalk that's subject to cars driving over. They're not in the driveway path.
Right, no, and
So
those,
it wouldn't be from vehicles
Right.
that would be
Yeah.
causing extra pressure
and those should have been poured a little, they're probably a little thicker in those areas anyway, cause I know the driveway approaches were poured a little thicker, and then if you.
Those sidewalks were part of that driveway.
Right.
What I'm thinking, my own opinion right away is it needs to be replaced, but I would like to see it settle out first, to see how much more damage, because you may have to, after you take it out, put in more backfill, put in more aggregate to fill whatever damage is underneath, once you get in there. As long as it isn't, my concern is it isn't a major safety hazard, I can wait a while to see what it does. But if it becomes a safety hazard, it needs to be replaced immediately.
I would have a hard time saying that the property owner is responsible to do it. This has been less than 2 years. I think it was the
Yeah,
last pour of the season, the end of the project.
And another tidbit of information that Andy revealed to me, and learning for me too, but a little bit of education there is, our state DOT on their projects, they don't ask contractors to supply warranties. So there is no warranty on that work, so.
That part's upsetting, but it's a normal practice in the business.
2 quick things, Doug. I don't recall what that sidewalk looked like before we tore it out and replaced it with this brand new. Is this sidewalk still in better condition than the old one, if you can recall? And second, Dick brought up a good point, it's only less than 2 years old. I think it would be our responsibility as well, but we need to draw a cutoff line at some point in time where we're responsible for any of these types of projects, because this could go on again in the future. Not this particular instance, but I mean other projects. And
Correct.
Where's the drop-off time?
Good question.
I mean, that's something we need to come up with.
Right, that's exactly right.
I think-
I'm looking for direction.
I think it's that, on something of that nature, an engineer needs to be consulted to see what he would think would be fair and equitable.
Yeah, go ahead.
When they did Highway 65 South, they had to re-pour the section of sidewalk in front of Juanita Cobb's house 3 times. It was doing the same thing, just, they rushed it at the end of the season, and, when the concrete was cold, everything was shrunk up, and then when
And if
summer
you
came,
went-
it just expanded.
If you went 2 blocks to the north, at my house, I had a 3/4 of an inch raise in there too, that
Yeah.
they came in and ground back down.
Yeah, because they had part of yours tilted back, or so
Well,
water
and then
was.
part of that was because the backfill was bad,
Mhm.
because they tore all those trees out and they didn't put a good backfill in.
So, I mean, it
Yeah.
happens.
One question too, Craig, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get back to the other question you had, is what it looked like previously. I don't recall, but I do believe the engineer may have some photographs, but nonetheless, I can maybe get those if you'd like me to.
I was only
research
curious,
that,
Doug,
but-
because I walk a lot, and I know that there's, like you mentioned, there's a lot of sidewalks in town that are probably in a lot worse condition than this is. I'm not trying to shun our responsibility, I think that we need to do something. But I think that if it's not an immediate danger, and I guess I don't know who determines what the danger is, because as soon as we say there is none, somebody will find one.
And I'm just going off the code, that's
Exactly.
what I'm looking for is.
I'm not trying to hold you to.
Sure, yeah, I can't
It's not your
predict
fault,
it.
you just brought the information.
Some people can trip on 1/8 of an inch, or if you're like me, I could trip over the crack if it's flat even, it could happen.
And while we got you up there, Doug, if you want to talk a little bit too about the situation in the Jones situation with their sidewalk, and enforcement of the code with the removal, they removed their sidewalk, and we've had some complaints, and
And I think
if you guys want to talk about the enforcement
refer to
side.
Ron a little bit
Yeah.
on that.
Yep.
Yeah, I talked to the property owner prior to it being removed and explained to her what the ordinance said, and that, she was wondering, what happens if she doesn't follow it, and I said, well, we don't drive around and, try to spot people who have removed the sidewalk and not put it back. We've got to prioritize what we do, and so I said, I'm not sure how, long it would be before, if you didn't put it in, before we would make you put it in. But I explained to her what the ordinance says, is that she, is supposed to put that sidewalk back in. And, after we had some complaints, I did talk to her again and explained to her, and she said she understood at the time that she was taking a gamble, but she, disagrees with it, because there's a number of other properties who have removed sidewalk and haven't put it back in, so, that's the way it is. No, we wanna, I explained to her that we're willing to work with them, we don't wanna, pound our fist and say, you gotta put a sidewalk in within a week, or we're gonna arrest you. I offered to her that, we would give them plenty of time. She has to understand that it needs to be replaced, but we'll work with her on a timeline, so, I haven't had any contact with her recently, but.
I haven't had any contact on that either. I mean, we have an ordinance, is it enforced? No. We've had discussions in the past, and I think you as a council put as a priority that we would be looking into starting a sidewalk program of some sort. One thing that we do offer now, is if a private citizen wants to redo the city portion of their sidewalk, not the one up to their house, but the actual city sidewalk, what you would classify. We allow the old sidewalk to be taken out to our, where the city dumps concrete and asphalt, at our dump site, out by the West Park Ball Diamonds. There is expense with that, because eventually that does fill up, and what happens is every once in a while I'll get lucky, and I have in the past where we'll have a big project going on, and the construction company that comes in will have a crusher. PCI brought in one for the highway project. I was able to make a deal, okay, we'll let you use our dump site for your crusher, if you crush what we have. But if we were to actually hire a crusher and we got full and we had no projects going on at that time, it would literally cost us thousands and thousands of dollars to just have a crusher come in and crush a big pile of concrete. I wanna say, the prices I got, and at one time I thought it would be lucrative to do that, to where we could use the crushed material, have it screened, and utilize that in our alleys. I've looked into that, but I could never get a definitive answer from the contractor that would, for the price, I can buy rock cheaper than I can have a crusher come in and crush it and screen it for me. I thought maybe we'd recycle, and that'd be a great thing, but it doesn't pay well. So when we're spending taxpayers' dollars, we're not gonna do that, obviously. So there is some expense to that, but we do allow that now. That is one way that we try to help. Another way we try to help is if someone has a corner lot and a resident is redoing their sidewalks, I will pitch in and purchase enough of the concrete to cover what would be the ADA approaches, and then I also supply the panels. So that is another way that we do try to assist residents in trying to afford to do some of this work, because if they aren't on a corner lot, they're supposed to put those ADAs in. So.
I guess basically what I'm looking for from the council is basically to give staff some direction on these instances, on how to proceed, because we have in this last instance, we have an enforcement issue, and there may be other things coming up in the future. And talked with Ron a little bit about maybe it's a thing where they start enforcing a little bit more stiff moving forward. But that's a direction that's got to come from the council as far as, what do you want to do, or do they proceed how they have been and kind of do it on a complaint basis?
Well, Sean, I have a couple
Go ahead.
comments. I guess, Ron, you'd mentioned that Deb Jones had said something about there are other properties that took out sidewalks and did not replace them. I guess I'd like to know who those were, because I'm not aware of any. That's why I'd like to know if she's making that allegation. And second of all, in that area, there are quite a few blocks that don't have sidewalks, but if you walk down that street now, there's not a sidewalk on either side of the street. There's a lot of properties, again, that don't have sidewalks, but they're generally, I believe, a sidewalk on the other side of the street. So there is no sidewalk on that half block on either side of Second Avenue after they took that out.
I only know of one that I'm aware of that it was taken out and not put back, and that would have been at First Street Northwest and 6th Avenue Northwest would be one that had transitioned. The person that took it out, it switched ownership, and then it switched ownership again, and that's one that's on the list to be taken. We have a court order to
That's
actually take that one
northeast.
down. Northeast, I'm
Northeast.
sorry,
Yep.
yes, northeast.
Yeah, but I mean, through the years, I mean, it's something that's been slowly occurring for many, many years,
Sure.
you know.
Well, I'd love to look back to what we talked about it in our goal setting session. It was one of our priorities. I think it's important for the number of people that walk in this community. I don't think it's safe for them to be walking in the streets. People are walking all hours of the day and night, and I see people walking when I go to work. So it's not uncommon to have anybody out. If they choose to walk in the street and they get hit, that's their fault. But if they have to walk in the street because there's no sidewalk, to me, that's another issue. Just the other day, I was driving down Highway 65 north by the church where we had the big discussion over not putting the sidewalk, and seeing a little girl fall off of her bike and fall to the curb, riding on that grass where there is no sidewalk. So I think that they are important, and I think that if it wasn't a big deal, we'd just tear out that chunk of sidewalk there at BSA and call it good. But we can't do that. We need to replace it, we need to repair it, and I think we need to follow our ordinance. Thank you.
Couple comments. I think you're on the right track with the Jones sidewalk. You've laid the facts on the line. There's no time frame. Maybe it would be appropriate for you now to go back with a time frame, have another discussion with them. They have a time frame for the replacement, because you've laid the groundwork for it to be replaced. They know that. I think that would be a good thing. And as far as the concrete, and you can check with Sickups on this. I know that Sickups had a huge volume of concrete that they just processed. And the figure that I've been told, and it's not a fact, but I come from a pretty straight source, the figure that I was told was a cost of $6 a ton to take that from the large concrete chunks into usable material, which is really, when you consider what we have to pay for rock.
I'd like to know who they use.
So
I'd like to
check
know who
with
they use.
Sickups. I don't know who you would check with there, but they had a contractor that came in, they did a very large volume of concrete, and that was the value that they had in. So that's a good way to get rid of concrete if
That's the way, you bet it is.
So you still want us to answer your question? What do you
Yep.
want to do at BSA?
Yep.
I'd say fix it.
I'd say fix it.
Okay.
I agree.
At city expense.
Yep.
This time,
What about Jones?
I agree with Dick.
Yep. Give 'em
What
time.
kind of timeline? What length?
Well, just bear in mind, whatever we said will be the timeline for everybody else that we find, so whatever's agreeable, 2 months.
I was
I don't know.
thinking 2 months at the most.
Yeah, pick the game.
I mean, people are busy, they might be traveling, they might be on vacation, they might have other plans. That's just a thought.
And do you wanna deal with this on a case-by-case basis, kinda like we've done tonight? Or you just blanket the issue? Because if you blanket the issue, then you may end up with a situation at BSA where, you know, like you said, you think the city has a certain responsibility, and I would agree with that. But if you blanket the issue, then you may have a property owner that's dealing with something that's maybe not their responsibility.
So, well, I think that just needs to spur us into gear and get that sidewalk ordinance taken care of, or our program that we've said was a priority. So far, we haven't addressed that, and I think we need to. Okay.
Just a comment in addition to your thoughts, Craig, as far as the BSA, we made a final payment on the Highway 65 project. Is that correct?
Right.
Is there any possibility, I don't want to subject somebody to injury from falling on that and cause a problem, but is there any possibility that we should wait to fix it until you hear a little bit more to see if maybe there's some pressure that we can put on the contractors based on the fact that we haven't paid that final payment?
We will make the attempt. Just wondering, yeah, I mean, we can check on that if that's what you wanna do.
So maybe fix it and apply that cost to reduction to the final contract?
So go ahead and fix it.
Well, thinking on that line, then why fix it now? Call the contractor back and make them take a look at it. Because you're not gonna get any resolution out of them if they say, I didn't see it beforehand.
I I think you have to give them an option to look
Yes.
at it if you're gonna expect them to pay for it.
Yeah,
Give them the first opportunity.
at least we've got a process in place.
And keep the property, keep the BSA owners in tune with what the progress of the situation is.
Well, and they need to put a time frame then to them when we're asking, because we're saying this needs to be replaced. What are you gonna work with us and pay it? That's all I'm.
I think, is that what you're looking for, Ron?
Yeah, we'll have Andy contact the contractor to come and look at it, and we'll make an attempt to have them repair it at their expense. If they're, we're unwilling to, or we're unable to do that, then the city will go ahead and make the repairs. Make that attempt first.
Or perhaps it could be on a shared basis.
Yeah.
Negotiate.
You bet.
Okay.
I'll get further that way.
And I'll give a timeline to the Joneses to give them a couple months to have that replaced. And then, any other complaints, we'll treat them in the same manner.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, council. If there's nothing else, move ahead. Next on the agenda is approval of claims as recommended by the Finance Committee in the amount of $191,961.90. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Steve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dick. Any discussion?
I'm just glad to see some of those figures being, construction figures for Progress Park. We are moving along at a good pace.
Anything else? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is consideration of approval and adoption of ordinance number 334. This is the final reading. It's an ordinance amending section 17.04 of chapter 17 of 2009 City Code of Hampton by changing the days and times of regular meetings of City Council. City Manager Duff, if you'd like to proceed with the reading on that.
Yeah, the amendment would be to section 1 of 17.04. Number 1, regular meetings. The regular meetings of the council will be held on the second and fourth Thursdays of each month at 6 p.m. in the council chambers of City Hall. The council may by resolution provide for an additional regular meetings. 4 members are necessary to constitute a quorum, but a smaller number shall have jurisdiction to adjourn to any date prior to the date of the next regular meeting or take such steps that they may deem advisable or necessary to bring in absent members. Thank you, Mayor.
Do I have a motion to approve and adopt ordinance number 334?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Diane and a second by Ryan. Any further discussion?
Of course. Tell me again, what's the purpose of moving their meetings to 6 o'clock?
I think the,
Are they gonna publish a paper a half hour earlier? or-
No. The psychology there, I think, is that, reality being reality, more people probably will not come out to the meetings, but, people are working, and people would like to come out, maybe that extra half hour might entice some people, entice some folks.
What about the guy that gets up at 4:30 in the morning and has to go to work?
Well, like I said, that's the psychology behind it, and it may not work, I understand that, I recognize that.
But we're charging ahead anyway, whether or not it will or won't, we won't know until after the fact.
Right. I don't think you get anywhere by sitting still. It's a stated intention, I think consensus of the full council that there would, we'd like to see more people in the chambers. Maybe you guys are right, maybe we won't get more people. Maybe we will, we don't know, but I know that doing nothing, isn't gonna get us there, so, that's the psychology behind that.
And the reason for moving them to Thursdays was what?
The recommendation, I think, was made at the committee level, if I'm correct, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but the recommendation was made, that, if we move to Thursdays rather than Monday, because there was a proposal made to move to Mondays. If we move to Thursdays, then we could have either committee meetings or, as proposed, the workshop meetings on Monday, and we could we could have the results of the workshop meeting or the committee meetings in that week's paper, and folks could see what was potentially going to be discussed earlier, because currently there's no agenda printed in the paper, because it would be pointless to print it. By the time it got out there, the meeting would have been had.
Who pays for the printing of that agenda? Because at one time, the city, we did scale back the amount of information that was given out solely because of the cost of doing so.
Which was very astronomical at the time.
Well, I know that the intent is to try to provide more information to the public, and that's the driving force behind all of this, and it may work, it may not, I don't know. But I do know sitting still doesn't accomplish.
I don't know if we're sitting still, because we've got an internet feature now, people can read stuff on the website, okay? We've got people recording us now, so we can talk about it on YouTube, and I can sit at home on my Facebook and show my granddaughter, yeah, that's just what I do on Tuesday nights, it's gonna be Thursday now. But, I think we're doing a great deal now, you know, and we have always, even in prior years, prior councils have worked to get more attendance. You know, it's kinda like, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's the way it is, you know? Unless you want us to go out with a stake bed truck and a 12-gauge shotgun and load them up and bring them in. I don't know what else to tell you.
What days are you having what days are you changing the actual council meetings to now?
Thursday is the proposal.
Thursday? You know, in the old days, Thursday night always used to be a church night. I know I read the Bible a lot on Thursday nights. I don't think I'd like that.
Well, I think most of the churches in the community are on Wednesday nights now.
Wednesday nights now? Well, I guess I'm out of church. I go to a different church, I guess.
Well, the thing that I wanted to make sure, Mayor, was that, I guess if we're moving into Thursday with the intent and the purpose of getting more information, I'm for that, because nobody's probably whined longer or louder than I have over the years about getting people to come to the meetings. I just want to make sure that we're not moving the dates, because we have conflict with certain people's schedules on Tuesdays. And I think that that's the main thing that I kind of sense, is that this clears a lot of schedules for a lot of people. The second part of this is that getting the information to the paper, and I've said this enough now, I'm getting tired of saying it, but it depends on what the paper chooses to put in. That's why we talked about last night at the meeting about having the meetings at least audio tape. We can play that in its entirety. There's no editing in that. True. So what we say can be misconstrued by a reporter. The facts could be screwed up. They could be printed wrong, any number of reasons. But if we have it streamed, at least our live audio or audio tape or disc, it's in the entirety. We don't have to worry about errors as far as what gets published. Right. So I'm in disagreement with this, as I have been from the start. I don't think it's a good idea. I think that the meetings will be longer. There'll be maybe a less meeting. Staff will be around a little bit longer. They'll have to be compensated. They'll have to come back. I think it's a disruption, and I don't think it's needed. But do what you wish. I've had my say, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Anything else?
I'd just like one open clarification of what you just said, Craig. Clearing calendars, clearing schedules for
That's
a
what I
lot of
said, yes,
people.
I said.
And would you be specific on that, please?
No, I said I suspect that.
Yeah, would you
Do
be?
you have any conflicts on Tuesday nights?
No, I don't.
Never
have
ever have.
conflicts, no. And I'm happy to move to 6 o'clock, because my job, that I'm very happy about, because my job, many times, I have a hard time getting here by 5:30.
So then it did benefit you by moving the times.
And I think there are a lot of councils, if you looked around the state, there are a lot of councils that meet at 7 o'clock. So I think that's a good compromise.
And if you look around the state, they meet at 5:30 and 5, and it doesn't matter.
I think that I was talking, Steve.
Well,
One
I've
at a
talked-
time here, please.
And
finish your
we've
comment.
had very clear discussion about the purpose for changing the meetings. The purpose for changing the meetings is to get more information out to the public, not necessarily to make more people sit in this room. And we're gonna make another effort, at least we're in the middle of making another effort to get it online, so that people can be involved in the city government by, if they have to work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or if they have to go to work at 4 in the morning. If we get that done, they can be involved. That's just another way that we're trying to do it. And I think, as I said before, I think our mayor now has changed some of the structures in this meeting room right here to make it so it's a more acceptable place to come and be heard. And I'm very happy with that. There's a lot of change that's already happened. And as you said, if there's something about this that isn't gonna work, then we can tweak it.
How would you do that? Go back and change another ordinance again? At what expense?
If we felt that that was necessary, yes. But the big thing, and the paper was supported, the paper asked us twice to do this. Now, asked once since I've been on the council, and another time prior to that, and it fell on deaf ears. And then the idea of coming up with the Monday night committee or workshop meetings to be able to publicize that information, get it out to the public so that it was in the paper on Wednesday, and then decisions would be made on Thursday. I think that could be a service to the community.
I'm glad you feel that way. Thank you for sharing that. Steve, did you have a point you wanted to make?
The only other point I'd make now after hearing that is I was on the council when the first question was asked about changing to help with the paper publications, and there was quite a bit of discussion on it, and it didn't fall on deaf ears, but it was felt at the time by the council that was here that it would serve no purpose.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Since this has been published in the paper twice now, how many calls, emails have you gotten regarding support of this?
None for me.
People care?
I've had a lot of
Care?
comments about what's happening in the council chambers, and people are much happier about what's happening since
Why?
the administration changed.
Why?
Because of the receptiveness
Really?
of what happens in the building.
Okay.
Many comments.
Really?
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll have our roll call vote. Stock.
Aye.
Eckhart.
Nay.
Arms.
Nay.
Crowley.
Aye.
Lukensmeyer.
Aye.
Davies.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay. Now that that is approved and adopted, the first regular session of 2013 will be held on Thursday, January 10th at 6 p.m. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, and that includes approving the previous minutes as drafted from the Tuesday, June 26th, 2012 regular session meeting. We'll schedule the next regular session for Tuesday, July 24th, 2012 at 5:30 p.m. at City Council Chambers. And we'll have approval of alcohol licensing renewal for Fairway Stores, number 902 at 309 Central Avenue West and Pitt Row at 19 Federal Street North, both of Hampton, Iowa. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Dick. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Craig. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is staff reports. We'll hear from Police Chief Bob Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and City Manager. I handed out the latest update as far as the nuisance stuff that's going on. We do have one particular one that we did give an extension on until tomorrow. If that isn't taken care of by tomorrow, there would be a citation issued. It's basically more a weed problem than anything else, but that will be taken care of by then. The one that we did have a citation on, the lady pled guilty, and the van was removed from the property where it had been sitting for quite some time. So that one got taken care of. Other than that, kind of the normal thing. Driving around here this afternoon, we had a report of a stolen vehicle from the swimming pool this afternoon. It was kind of a delayed thing. We got the call at approximately 3 o'clock, and I believe even the owner didn't realize it had been taken earlier than that, but with the investigation, there was somebody that had seen somebody else in the vehicle at about 1:30. But in driving around looking for that vehicle, I did happen to notice that there's a lot of areas as far as the tall grass, whatever. That might be because of the fact that we haven't had any water. People aren't mowing yards or whatever, but I just happened to notice right around the corner from me that it looked like somebody tried to plant a cornfield, and it looks more like weeds than it does corn. So hopefully we can get back at it and get some of those things taken care of out there. Also, just so that you're aware, over the weekend, we actually were down to one squad car. We had the charger in because we needed to have something done with the rotors on it. They were warped. We've had them basically cut down once. And from what they tell me, that with those rotors and bigger rotors on that kind of a vehicle, once you do that, even if you have enough that you can do it again, they're gonna work within a short period of time. So we have that down at the city garage to be repaired. And we were called to a incident basically outside the city limits, but it was at 6:30 in the morning, and there wasn't anybody else around at that time. It was out by Phelps Implement. Had a gentleman that they arrested for public intox, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct, and put him in the back seat of the car, and he proceeded to kick the back window of the car out. So that one was down. Officer Morrison was driving the Blazer shortly afterwards, and all of a sudden smells antifreeze, and come to find out that the plastic housing sitting on top of the motor where the thermostat housing is at was cracked. So we were down to the only Explorer. Since that time, we do have the other Explorer back on, thanks to the city boys down there. They got that taken care of. They had parts ordered for the brakes on the other one, hadn't come in yet, and Weldon's Auto Body finally, they got the back window replaced, and we got that back today. So hopefully by the fair, we'll be back to full strength. Speaking of the fair, we are getting ready for that. And it was asked as far as where we were gonna be putting no parking signs or who was in charge. We've got plastic permanent type signs that say no parking, where we will be putting those up both sides of Olive. On the north side, and there'll be like 4 of them there, basically to keep the traffic back from the stop sign so that intersection stays open. On the south side of Olive, what we'll do is start at the stop sign and go back as far as the fairgrounds is with those, and we might fill in with some paper ones on the west side of the highway if we run out of the plastic ones or whatever. We'll probably also use those also on 10th Street. What we'll do is we'll have them on both sides of the road for the parade, and then once the parade's over, we go and take them off of the west side so that people can park on the west side of the road and then go from there. So that's what we're looking at for that. Does anybody have any questions?
Do we still have the Harley?
Yes, we do.
I haven't seen that running around very often.
I know. That is one of the things. I'm having a departmental meeting tomorrow. That is one of the things that's gonna be brought up at the departmental meeting, that, you know, when those guys come in, especially in the evening, when it's cooler, that they need to be getting on that and riding it, because if we're not gonna ride it, then there's no use in having it.
I haven't seen it riding around.
The sad part is, we give it up, we won't get it back again. So, that is gonna be discussed tomorrow.
You got a license to ride it, Bob?
Yes.
I see him ride it more than anybody else.
Yeah, not this year you haven't.
No.
It seems like, in fact, for the past 2 days, it doesn't seem like you can get out of the office, so. But any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Tar.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'll just refer to my bi-weekly report. Number 12, local contractor C&E had been a subcontractor on our aquatic center project. They are going to be repairing it's a service line to the shelter house, so it's outside the shelter house, it's not underneath the pool or inside the pool. And they think it's right outside, but they will have to remove a piece of sidewalk basically to excavate tomorrow to see if they can get that leak located definitively and then get it repaired. We've had a couple, 2 or 3, that's not rare occurrence after your aquatic center goes through a year of winter and such, but you'd like to shoot for none. Obviously the lines are all tested before they do construction, when they do burying and stuff, so but it happens. So I just want to let you know that you're not digging up the pool or the deck of the pool or inside the fence. It is outside. So, and then I don't have on here. There is a Low Westrom, the leak detector. He'll be in town this week. If you see strange person maybe on a moped or in a car get out and have some funny earphones on and put like what would look like a stethoscope basically on a fire hydrant of some sort. He's doing leak detection, and we do that every year. He canvasses the community, and we do that because we want to know what our water loss potentially is. And it's basically a maintenance procedure. It's a good thing to do. We can take our water that's been pumped and the water that we've had stored over the years, take our records and confirm maybe what our water loss is. It might tell us if we have a water main break that maybe is leaking just a little bit or something of that nature. But it's definitely cost prohibitive to perform this, and or it's not cost prohibitive, excuse me. It actually benefits us a great deal. So anyway, so he's in town doing some work. And does anybody have any questions, concerns, or anything of that nature on anything else? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Rhonda?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment about that volunteerism continues to be alive here in Hampton. Doug mentioned in his report the Farmers Co-op is once again doing a volunteer project for the city. They take their employees and they donate their time to do a community project, and they're doing a sun shelter, a shade shelter for the compost site workers. And we've had a lot of volunteers in the recent past, and with the band shell, Mr. Grove doing picnic tables, and the Lions Club helping out with picnic tables. Today I saw a lady who has property on Highway 3, mowed her lawn, but was out doing stuff in the gutter of Highway 3 and making sure it was, the weeds were clipped and it was clean. And, these efforts are what lift up a community and make it shine. And it's just inspiring to see. I mean, that's the a major factor in what makes your community look good. It's nice to see. Any questions about anything? Yeah.
Council reports, Ryan Stock, Ward 1.
I have no comment this evening.
Okay. Dick Lukensmeyer at large.
I'd have to agree with you. I think that volunteerism is alive in Hampton. The Lions continue on the cemetery fence, many other projects that are going on. We've got a fair that's going to be happening in just a little bit over a week. It's one of the best county fairs in the state, and it involves a lot of people. There's a lot of volunteerism that goes on out there, so hopefully people will enjoy the fair. I think if you haven't purchased your pop buttons yet, you can still get them for a couple of days for the reduced price. Maybe tomorrow, is that right? Good shows. I think we got Chet Atkins, we got Oak Ridge Boys, we got Rodeo, and what are the other two? A lot of good entertainment out there, brings thousands of people to Hampton. I think we're prepared for them. We're making changes in Hampton, continually make Hampton a good place to live. I'm proud to be here.
Thank you, Dick. Diane Prawley, Ward 3.
I just wanted to tell the chief, tell your officers, thank you for coming to the car wash the other night. I appreciated their help. Secondly, now that we're getting into this, trying to put meetings online, I would like to see some public input on just how much is being accessed. Whoever's keeping track of these things, if only a few are doing it, I don't want to see us wasting a lot of time on it, but if it is going to be used, it's worth the time.
Thank you. Steve Harms at large.
Don't have nothing for tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Jim Davies, Ward 2.
Believe it or not, no report.
Craig Eckhart, Ward 4.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. It's nice and encouraging to see the trails busy. I know when I get up and go to work in the morning, sometimes it's 4:30, sometimes it's 20 to 5, but I've seen people walking on the trails, riding bikes, and doing this and that. But, so it's a good investment in our future. I'd like to see all the things going on at Progress Park. And one quick question I forgot to ask when Jim gave the report, when they talked about Haley Hansen and a possible raise, how much?
I think we talked about a quarter an hour.
That's all I have. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Craig. And for my report, since we have that ordinance passed now, I'm going to hand out this resolution that I've been working on. This is in regards to the conduct or the procedure of the council. And what I'll hand to you is this light purple sheet is the resolution that we're currently working off of, that goes back to 2002. And then the dark purple is what is the revised and proposed that I want to put in you guys' hands to look at, to mock up, to make whatever changes you want. It's just a starting point, I guess, more than anything else. So, I've got some here for the public too. I'll put out on the tables for you guys to take as you leave around if you want. Yep. But that's all I've got for my report. So if there's, is there any other further comment or any other further discussion? Okay, yeah.
I just, sorry, I'm holding this thing steady, but I just wanted to say, I'm sorry I didn't get the committee meeting report, and I was actually working on the log until 2 in the morning. I've just started putting this together. So sorry about that, everybody. I'll try to get it up on the website as soon as I can.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second by Ryan, second by Jim. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
I remembered to vote that time. We're adjourned at 6:42. Yeah,